So are we all having a good time? Yeah. You enjoying yourselves? Wonderful. Good news. So this next talk's a little bit different. It's not coming from an OEM. This talk is all about, as you can probably tell, NFC implants. So this is Matthew. He's a staff writer at XDA Developers, and he's actually had this implant done. So he's going to give us a little bit of a talk on it, and we were going to have a practical demonstration. Unfortunately, that can't happen this time. But Matthew's going to come through and just tell us a little bit about it. So round of applause for Matthew, everybody.
Thank you very much. As you said, I'm Mathew Brack, news correspondent for XDA Developers. We have 450,000 active users at the moment, and they preside over a knowledge base compiled by 6 million users for a total of 56 million posts. Surprisingly, this is not where my interest in NFC implants came from. It was actually my degree in agriculture. Upon first attending university, I discovered they took security very seriously. To get from the main road to my room in Halls, I had to request a security guard raise a barrier over an intercom, scan my student card over 3 different panels to get into 3 separate doors, and then finally unlock my door with a key. This started to get tedious. Even going down to the shop became a chore. That was 6 panels, gate twice by that point. So I started to look for a way to optimize the process. I left my wallet with my card in it in my room numerous times, so I had to go around tapping on windows. There must have been a better way. I started by presuming that these panels work off RFID. Scanned my card with my phone, scanned the panel, and discovered they work off something called the MyFair protocol, which is a security layer. This can't be emulated over a phone, especially not mine. So it sort of dropped in my priorities for a while. Several months later, I started seeing articles like this pop up all over the internet. You may have seen them. Didn't really interest me at the time. I had no need for implantable technology. It sounded terrifying, kind of messy, probably expensive. So I just ignored it, let it go on. I use RFID and NFC every day anyway. There's a tag by my bathroom mirror. It's the only way to turn off my alarm in the morning. Only way to get me up in the morning as well. I use my cards with RFID all the time to make contactless payments. And on the farm, I've used them to check livestock. They all have a tag in the rear. Scan them, get the records up, organise them. It was one day whilst I was in the dairy unit when I was looking at the livestock and noticed that as the cows moved around, gates opened and closed automatically for them. If they'd already been milked, the cows wouldn't be allowed into the parlour again until a certain time had elapsed. Got me thinking, if this works for the cows, why can't things such as the tills, the library, all the doors on campus, the printers automatically know just who I am and work for me? I was sure there was a way I could get an ear tag to work for me, but I didn't fancy a huge chunk of plastic hanging off my face. I couldn't wear jewellery, so that was out of the question, and by this point I was sick and tired of having to pull out my card every 5 minutes. Thankfully I found that there were thousands of people around the planet who shared the same thoughts as me, and it wasn't long till I found them. Upon reading more about NFC implants, I fell in love with it instantly. I discovered it wasn't a new technology. It was reasonably cheap. It was nowhere near as complicated as I imagined. In fact, thanks to crowdfunding, a company had already started producing NFC implants in a sterile and safe manner that were easy to install. The the company Dangerous Things had started a crowdfunding on Indiegogo. They'd reached their goal within a week, and by the end of it, they had 350% of their funding. I looked into them and discovered that the top line implant cost $99, which roughly £60 at the time. Placed my order, and then started looking through all the other information they give. They have a huge map of partners across the world, all who will install one for you, and an entire wealth of knowledge on what you can use them for and how they are implanted. At the time, registered partners in the UK were few and far between. Deciding that I felt more comfortable being geographically close to where I had mine implanted, I approached a local piercing place that I'd been before. Must have thought I was a bit crazy. Excuse me, if I bring in a syringe, will you just inject me with the contents? It's just some circuitry. But thankfully they were incredibly excited about it. We spoke about it. I gave him a stack of paperwork all about them, and he agreed to go on the training. So that was me for several weeks. I went home 3 weeks later, the parcel arrived, and I returned. We spoke for about 45 minutes about the process, what he'd learned, what I'd learned, and when we were finally happy that it was okay, he implanted it. It was relatively simple. It took about 20 seconds. He simply just injected. Same as you would any other injection. You feel a slight pinch as it goes in, and then there's a click and it's done. I'd been advised not to play with it for a day or two. A couple of hours later, I was in a Tesco's, about 5:30 on an evening, pulled out my phone and bing, new tag found. Came up on my screen, so seconds later, contact details are on it, giggling manically in the middle of a busy Tesco's, tapping my phone against my hand. A couple of odd looks, but I didn't care. So by the time I got home that evening, my primary use for my implant was to unlock my phone. I simply pull out my phone, tap it to my hand, it unlocks for me. It was the next day, back at university, that I approached the IT department. Knock, knock. I don't suppose you can add my hand to the door system. So yeah, after answering all the usual one-word questions, what, how, and the most common, why. Yeah, not a problem. Swiped a reader across my hand. Now, every time I go towards a door or a printer, tap a panel with my hand on the way for the handle, door opens for me. Successfully, haven't seen my student card in months. I rapidly learned that using an Android device, you can automate about just about any service. Imagine turning on or off settings, just tapping your hand. You can send automated SMSs to people. So coming home, tap at your hand, home in half an hour, making tea. You can check in on social media sites just by tapping, turns GPS on and off before and after. Using apps such as Tasker, you can program it to do just about anything your phone could do. Long chains of events can just be narrowed down to tapping your hand. Nowadays, my implant plays an almost constant role in my life. If I want to give someone my contact details, if I want to give someone some information without giving them my contact details, far more likely, or if I want to share with them my Wi-Fi password, just tap their phone and it can connect. I can even share using cloud drives with a share URL, like Dropbox or Google Drive, several gigabytes of data over a network connection simply just by tapping their phone. My PC is currently logged onto with one of these. They go for about tenner, eBay, Amazon. Log on screen, just tap your hand to it, logs me on automatically. When you start to look, many companies produce products with NFC capabilities. For the most part, they're designed for people with NFC tags on their keyrings. I don't think they had this in mind. However, EG Touch made these brilliant locks. Getting back off holiday, you don't have to rummage around in your bag for those ridiculously tiny keys. Just tap your hand to it. In the past, implantees have been known to modify electronic locks to enable them. However, thanks to Samsung, there's a far more eloquent solution. Kindly, the people at NFC Ring over there have donated a demonstration model. Kindly, thank you. And that kit requires no specialist information or extra holes. Pop out your current deadlock, slot that one in. It's a lot easier to do from the front. Swipe your hand on it, door unlocks. Making the implants available to the public wasn't smooth sailing at all. Dangerous Things weren't the first people to attempt it. A company called VeryChip tried. Wasn't well received. The original concept was for medical data. Have a RFID chip implanted in you with your medical records or a link to your medical records. In case of emergency, you're unconscious, can't tell the doctor, scans your hand. I believe theirs was in their collarbone, just next to it. Scan your collarbone, records come up. Didn't work out for them. There was a little bit of disagreement over the technology. And unfortunately, the company changed its name and stopped selling the product. However, when Dangerous Things came around, they've successfully launched it, and to the best of my knowledge, I've never faced this crowd. All technologies have their pitfalls, and the one for implants, quite large. Unfortunately, if you ever have an implant, you will have to tolerate. I don't know if you can all read that. Everyone who finds out. For the first month that I had my implant, maybe a couple of times a day, someone would suddenly decide, you're the guy with the NFC implant, I've got a really good book you should read. Or just burst into this. It's died down a lot. I haven't heard it in a good couple of weeks now. So, new record. I don't think it's particularly a judgment call, but this is sort of the only way people can connect with the technology at the moment. It's not widely spread enough to warrant, you can use this for... It has been known to be said quite a bit before. This is the only way they can connect. I have checked. My implant does not have any 6s in the serial number. If you don't believe me, you can check. It's also in my left hand. One of the primary concerns people have about NFC implants is that they're in some way linked to GPS, and that with someone who has an NFC implant, you can sort of like zoom in on them from a satellite and find them. It's not how it works. The evidence here being your pet. They all have, should all have chips in them. You can't just find them, you have to take them to the vet. The vet fumbles around with the reader and picks it up and then calls you. It doesn't happen. Can't track anyone. There's no power in the implant itself. It all comes from the device that you're reading it with. So, saying that, if you're within a couple of inches of me, you can probably scan my tag and find out where I am. Love this guy. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we couldn't have the partner here today to implant people. Next year we'll probably, powers that be willing, be back, and we'll definitely have someone next year. Possibly several if there's enough of you who want one. The information on being implanted is all available at Dangerous Things website. And for those of you who obviously can't get one today or don't want one, all the technology available is also available in an NFC ring. Guys over there, who for today have agreed to do a discount.
Yeah, it's 30% off if you go to the store. Just want to come sign up, put your details in, and can set out some discounts. And we also have the lock as well, which has got 20% off until Monday. So come by, have a look and have a chat about that as well.
They are MyFair compatible, they've got storage, everything you could expect from an implant, however, carried on a ring. If you want to see any more examples of what you can do with an NFC implant, feel free to come up and ask. I'll be happy to tap my hand to your phone, either. Thanks for listening. Are there any questions at all? Jeremy?
Yeah, so how many, I guess I have two questions. One would be, how many do you currently have, injected in here?
I was going to have my second one injected in my other hand, live for you today. Unfortunately not, so I only have the one at the moment.
Right, okay. How much data is able to actually be stored on there?
888 bytes in total. I think available is 864 or so. Generally, with URL shorteners, you can fit as much as you want on that.
Right. So how often do you reprogram it?
In a perfect world, I never would. However, this morning I've done a couple of different things with it today. When I get back home tonight, I'll just set it up to unlock only. And then when I go out tomorrow, business card on there. Occasionally, when I go shopping list on there. Every time I pull my phone out, it automatically brings up my shopping list, reminding me what I've forgotten.
I suppose with Tasker, it's actually quite easy to do all the reprogramming and getting to do a large amount of tasks all in one go. Strange enough, people Tasker.
Yeah, Tasker doesn't rely on the actual storage on the device. It takes the serial number and uses that instead. So you can have, in theory, an almost infinite amount of tasks all built into one tap if you really wanted to. Gentleman there?
Have you tried to use it for contactless payment? Does it work?
I have not. It has worked before. Other people have tried it. I really would rather not. Gentlemen with that?
Do they have a degradation period? Do they have to be pulled out after a certain time? Is there a warranty if they don't work after a month or so?
Good question. Mal Grafstra, the founder of Dangerous Things, has had his in for, I believe, 11 years now. Hasn't changed it once. They are incredibly easy to get out. Any GP can take it out in 30 seconds or so. They all know how to do it. Women can get implant in their arm, very similar.
Julie's got a question.
Sure.
Are the actual chips themselves similar to PET microchips, and could you use a veterinary microchip gun to insert one?
I wouldn't advise it. They are very similar. It's the same technology, but with much larger capacity and the MyFair protocol. I really wouldn't advise using a PET gun though.
It's only a way of injecting it.
Syringe it took 20 seconds tops and it didn't hurt at all. Jeremy?
Sorry. So the MyFair protocol,
Mm-hmm.
there are multiple protocols that have kind of come along over the last concern is the future proofing, is that, you know, that may go away and then you're stuck with, obviously you can take it out, but how long has MyFair been around and what's the kind of future proof opportunity with that?
I couldn't tell you how long the MyFair protocol itself has been around. It's been there since before I've started playing with NFC, and hopefully it'll be around for a long time after. For most of my uses, it's not required. The only use I use it for is university. Thankfully in 3 months, done with. So, working for XDA, I don't have any doors to...
No.
Yeah, you need to get on that so we can do some extra stuff with XDA using his chip somehow.
Log in via NFC.
Yeah.
If you could do that, that'd be great. Yes?
What's the cost of the chip?
The best one they provide, which is 888 bytes, is $99, so £60, and that comes inside the syringe and fully sterilised. You can buy them out of the syringe, and then if you wanted to use your pet gun, and they're significantly cheaper. You do need to sterilise those yourself, though.
Mine was a stupid and silly curiosity question.
Ask it anyway.
Have you gone travelling with it? And if so, would you go for like a metal detector? Or they?
I have been travelling with it. Manchester Airport, if you've ever been there, big, odd-looking glass boxes you have to walk through covered in scanners. Didn't pick it up. No mention of it whatsoever. I had the same doubts. So walking up to it, shuffling slowly. No, there's been no issues in Manchester or the Tunisian airport that I went through on the way back. Yes?
Sorry, do dangerous things that they have currently, or are they planning to do other types of NFC chip? You can get like the tags or something, yeah, is it an tag to bring ones that are a bit more widely supported with phone schools, so they store a bit more, I think.
I believe the largest storage capacity of any chip they do is 888 bytes. However, they do offer a large amount of NFC tags, not all for implantation. They do patches for bags, chips for your keyring. They also offer various other biohacking things like magnets to be inserted in the end of your finger. You can feel electromagnetic fields with it. Next year.
Yeah.
Maybe not a brilliant idea around screens.
I mean, I would assume that as more people use the technology, there would be more reason for them to create different size NFC chips, and you know, I think it's really still quite early doors for them, and I think the more that they get, the more that will kind of they'll get bigger and better. I know I'd like one, except I don't like needles.
So yeah, at the current time, there's quite a small range, but varied. A couple of years from now, there may be a huge range.
So if we take one more question from the guy with the black t-shirt who's been waiting for a little while, and then we'll wrap up.
My question is, when you open doors with your hand, do you ever try and convince strangers that you're using the force?
Yes, I do. All the time. For people who aren't familiar with the technology, which is a huge number of people, program hello and their name into it. Have a look at your phone. It's weird. It's great fun. That is paid for itself. Thousands of times over. Just playing with people's minds. Thank you very much.